Welcome back, everybody. How's it going? Life is life's going on. It's been a hell of a winter. It's been one hell of a winter. It's a beautiful day outside. That snow is fucking melting. It was 70, 72 degrees today. I think that's the end of it. It's still early March, so you never know. We'll see what happens. Hopefully, we won't get another snowstorm this winter. Hopefully, no water main breaks in the near future. We'll see what happens. Fingers crossed. Things have been all right. Just got to take it one step at a time. But over the last couple of months, I've been thinking about some ideas for some videos, and I've always loved doing the top tens. And I thought of something interesting. I want to do a top 10 decade by decade. I'm going to start with the 70s and go from there. But the funny thing about this top 10, it's going to be my top 10 favorites. Not necessarily the best or the worst or the greatest. Just my personal top 10 favorites. This isn't going to be in any particular order. It's just going to be 1 through 10, not 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Like, it's just going to be randomized. But the kick, the surprise here is the big guns are not going to be included in any of these lists. So that means no Halloween, no Friday the 13th, no Elm Street, no Scream, no Child's Play movie will be making it onto these lists for the 70s, 80s, 90s, or anything in the 21st century. Nothing. Which is not necessarily forcing me to think outside the box. It's just going to force me to, talk about some things that I haven't really talked about too much. And I'm not going to go crazy on every single one of these movies. I'm just going to, I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet. I'm not going to go nuts. But we're going to start off with the 1970s. And the 70s, I think, is extremely underrated and overlooked due to the impact that the 80s had. But I gotta give some shout outs here. So I'm gonna start off with my first movie of the 70s. Number 1 is going to Dario Argento's Suspiria. Now, Suspiria is not a movie that I grew up watching like The Big Guns, but it's something as I got older, I really started to grow to appreciate, and the character of Susie and the environment of that movie and the giallo filmmaking of Dario Argento. It's epic on all proportions, and I love the remake. Love that remake from I think 2018 or 17, one or the other. I'm not going to go crazy on the second one, and that's Jaws. We all know Jaws is one of the greatest films ever fucking made, so we're not going to go into detail on that. It's just epic on all proportions. So that's 2. Number 3, I've got to give it to the Amityville Horror. The Amityville Horror is another very, very, I'm not going to say overshadowed or not really given enough credit, but the house, you know what I mean? The Amityville house, it's one of the most epic figures in horror, you know what I mean? And then just, I love James Brolin and Margot Kidder in that original Amityville movie. It's a great fun time. It can drag on. It's a longer film, but I really do enjoy it. And obviously, we've got at number 7, we're gonna have Alien, 1979. Alien. A lot of people, when it comes to the Alien franchise, it's being a diehard horror fan, I lean more towards the original Alien than Aliens. It just that blank, quiet. You know what I mean? That feeling that nobody's coming to help. One alien, one xenomorph on the ship, picking them off one by one. Dallas's death, the face hugger, the chest burster. Ripley, the character of Ripley, she didn't become that badass motherfucker. She wasn't that character in that original movie. She was just as vulnerable as anybody else. But just, there's something about Alien from 1979 that is just, once again, one of the greatest movies of all time. I absolutely love it, and it made me feel really good with Alien Romulus a few years back, and then with Alien Earth coming out. It feels like they're going back to the roots with this. Excuse me. When a Stranger Calls. Number 6. When a Stranger Calls. One of, if not the, depending on what day of the week you're talking to me, one of, if not the greatest opening in horror history. Middle of the movie kind of, a lot of people feel that way, but I mean, Carol Kane's performance, it was epic. Absolutely epic. Have you checked the children? That line is just so freaking iconic. And the ending there was great. It just, once again, a lot of people don't give it the credit due to the fact that the middle of the movie is kind of boring. Oh well, who cares? It is what it is. But I enjoy it. I love it. It's awesome. It's great, great, great movie. 1979's When a Stranger Calls. And then number 5, I'm going to go with Carrie. The original Carrie, 1976. Sissy Spacek in there. It just... The performances in that movie, you can't forget PJ Souls. Totally. The performances in that movie are just so fun. The dramatic undertone and the real true stories of what that movie's trying to explain to you. The stories of what it's trying to explain, and with the problems that Carrie White was dealing with, and the bullying and everything else, and just being over sheltered by that mother. It was just, Carrie is definitely one of my all-time favorite Stephen King adaptations. It's a fantastic film. That remake in 2013 was, I don't mind it. Pretty good, that TV remake, I think in 2002, I think, was, whatever. Not the biggest fan, but, Stephen King, some of his stories are, a little bit, who knows. But a story like Carrie, if you have not seen the original Carrie from 1976, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. I think it's not necessarily a good gateway horror movie, but it's like you can be a non-horror fan and watch that. You can watch Carrie and enjoy it if for what it is. It's great. You really, really can. Then you've got Wes Craven's classic, The Hills Have Eyes. 1977. I believe this was Dee Wallace's first horror movie. First horror credit, if I recall correctly. It's just the concept of those hillbilly cannibal, however the heck you want to look at it, those characters, and just those guys just being, that whole feeling of, we're lost out here, nobody's coming to help us, we got to fend for ourselves. The movie's highly dated now, had a pretty freaking solid remake in 2006. I remember that was one of the last horror movies I ever had to sneak into. I was like 13 or 14 or whatever. I just was like, fuck it, we'll do this, we're rocking this, it was all right. It just, it's great, but I'm a sucker for Wes Craven. He's one of my all-time favorites, and once again, The Hills Have Eyes gets just overshadowed by by movies like Scream and Elm Street. Wes Craven, John Carpenter, you're going to see a lot of their movies on these lists. They got some bangers out there that aren't those big guns. So if you have not seen The Hills Have Eyes, I highly, highly recommend it. Then we've got 3 more here. I'm going with the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, yeah, I didn't include that franchise in the big guns because I'm not really emotionally attached to the character of Leatherface or the franchise as a whole. When it comes to Texas Chainsaw, I really only absolutely love the first movie and the 2003 remake. I could really live without everything else. I own every single movie, seen them all, but it's just something about the character of Leatherface, something about the wackiness of the storylines and the movies just never, ever worked for me. I know it's blasphemy for me to say that, but it just, I could live without the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. It's not my cup of tea. overall, but there is no denying what that original Texas Chainsaw movie has done, and what the next movie that I'm about to talk about, what it did for the slasher craze of the 80s. That's going to bring me on to number 2, which is Black Christmas. Black Christmas, Black Christmas, Black Christmas. Bob Clark, what he did in 1974, the sorority sisters and the character of Billy, you got Margot Kidder in there again, and Olivia Hussey is Jess Bradford, rest in peace. Just the setting of the house and that whole red herring thing with Peter and the boyfriend, and Jess, she's being a woman and standing up for herself and doing what she wants to do. It's just the creepiness, the vibe of that movie. You got John Saxon in there as the cop. It's great. I mean, you all know that I'm a big fan of Dave McCrae and what his love and passion for Black Christmas and what he did with the Billy films. And if you've not seen It's Me, Billy Chapter 1 or 2, get on over to Dave McCrae's channel and watch a true legacy sequel to Bob Clark's Black Christmas from 1974. Yeah, and if you were wondering what number 1's going to be, it's obviously The Exorcist from 1973, arguably the greatest, and if not the scariest film ever made. There is a reason why I've never let my wife watch that movie. She'd probably make me throw it away. It's not just a scary movie. It's an epic film. It's a great movie. Yeah, there's some very diabolical, fucked up things in that movie, but what Chris McNeil, and Reagan, what those characters went through and what Linda Blair had to deal with as I think 12 or 13 when they were shooting this movie, and just with Father Merrin and Karras, all that, finding his faith and saving that little girl that he doesn't know anything about, doesn't know her, The Exorcist is not, I don't watch it like I do the big guns and the slashers. I don't watch The Exorcist like that. It's like a once a year, every other year kind of thing. But there's no denying that it's an all-time classic. And for me, probably besides Halloween, it's got to be my second favorite, if not the second best horror movie of the decade, of the 70s. Overall, just because of how epic it is and what it did to society, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. It really, really is. So if by some chance you're watching this and you've never seen The Exorcist, get on it now. So we're going to go on to the 80s next. Next video will be on the 80s. And remember, 80s, wait a minute, how is he going to do this without the big guns? You just wait and see. Until next time, we will talk to you soon. Peace out.